During the Power Hour interview today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Tamir Poleg, the CEO of Real Broker. And my wish was to have a different kind of conversation than what most expect. My thought process was to bring you the man and not only the CEO, and give you a glimpse in the mind, spirit, and soul of a leader that has a unique vision and perspective as much as a big purpose. This was an insightful experience, and I'm excited for the growth and contribution that Tamir provides during this interview. It's worth to mention that Tamir has not been provided with the questions ahead of time in order to intentionally discover his role thinking process. Hope you will enjoy it as much as I did. Let's dive in.
Sure.
Tamir, I want today to give our viewers a little bit of a background by discussing sort of your journey before real estate, into real. So if we can give them just a little bit of background.
Sure. How much time do we have?
As much time as you have with us.
I'm just kidding. First of all, thank you everyone for listening to us or watching us. My personal history, so I grew up in Israel, completed my military service. After that, I wanted to work in a work that's a little bit harder than usual physically and pays a little bit above average. So I ended up in construction as a construction worker and did that for 2.5 years. Amazing time. I think that it taught me everything about real estate from the ground up, like how homes are actually built, all the processes, all the complexities of actually building a home, which, you know, for many people, it's like, it's a given, you know. But there's so much work that goes into building a home. So I did that for 2.5 years. Then I went to university to study economics, completed my degree. It was year 2000 when I completed, and I joined a startup just before the dot-com bubble bursted. I spent about 5 or 6 years with 2 different startups / tech companies doing mainly sales and business development in Europe. And in 2006, I went to Houston, Texas, just because somebody told me that there are some opportunities in real estate over there and I should come and visit and see. And it wasn't an exciting market because, you know, the rest of the US was appreciating by 15, 20, 25% year over year. And Houston was kind of slowly appreciating by 2 to 3%. But it was a stable job market, interesting city. And I started flipping homes and kind of got my way into real estate again. And then the market crashed at the end of 2007, 2008, as you probably remember. And I think that at that point, I didn't have a lot of exposure to real estate in terms of money. I also didn't have much money. I kind of borrowed $100,000 from my ex-wife's dad. But I saw a lot of opportunities. I saw properties that were selling for X now being offered for 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar. And I saw a lot of distressed sellers. I saw a lot of distressed banks. And, you know, I was younger back then and maybe had more risk appetite. And I decided that I'm going to start buying multifamily properties with my former partner. So we started buying a lot of properties and started managing them. So we had to start our own property management company as well, our own construction companies, because many of the properties that we acquired were kind of, they needed complete rehabs. So we wanted to do it by ourselves to save a little bit of money. And our portfolio grew to around 2,200 apartments around Houston and Dallas. Pretty large operation, very exhausting, I have to say. And in 2013, we were both tired and we thought that the market was about to crash because all of those properties that we were buying for $1 were now selling for $2. And we said, you know, this is a good time to get out because probably it's the peak of the market. Now they're selling for 4x what we bought them. But anyway, we sold everything. And by the end of 2013, I found myself with an interesting combination, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if others think so, of real estate background and technology background. And I wanted to do something with technology in the real estate space. And throughout my career, I always worked with agents. I knew how much value agents bring to every transaction. I brokered a few deals in Israel at the time that license was not needed. And I thought that there's just a better way to do brokerage. I thought that agents were underserved, they deserved better. I thought that somebody should pick up this opportunity of trying to make agents' lives better all the time. And I had that passion inside of me, and I decided to start Real in 2014. So that's my career
That's
until 2014.
amazing, amazing. Love it. So in your leadership journey, where did you finally gain the confidence to say, I can do this? I'm a leader. Were you born a leader, or was it something that you kind of train yourself on?
I think that I'm struggling a little bit with the word leader or leadership because it seems like this huge title that has to be earned, and I don't know if anyone can crown themselves or call themselves leaders. I definitely don't call myself, or when I'm alone, I don't think myself as myself as a leader, about myself as a leader. I think about myself as someone who constantly tries to build value for others. And I think that this is what maybe draws people to Real. And this is maybe why some investors join us. This is why a lot of agents joined us, because we constantly try to build value for others. We're not thinking about ourselves. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about everybody else that trusted me and trusted us and joined this journey. If you're asking me what was this point in time where I felt confident that, you know, this thing is going to work, I think that many years ago, probably around the age of 30, I eliminated the word fear from my life, just because some things that happened to me in life and some experiences. Many of us, I would even say most of us, base our decisions on fear. Like, what happens if this doesn't happen, or if things go wrong? Like, I cannot allow myself to fail or lose, or so. And fear is a horrible motivator. It's just horrible. So many years ago, I just eliminated the word fear, and I operate with a lot of confidence. And it's not about knowing that I'm going to succeed. It's about knowing that I can overcome any failure. And I think that that gave me a lot of confidence to move forward. So if you're asking me what was that point in time where I felt that I can do this, I think that it wasn't about that. It was about, if it fails, I'll know what to do and I'll be okay.
Beautiful. Just so you know, I know you mentioned something that for someone at least like myself, and I know a lot of people that will watch this, and leaders that I know, and I'm aware of them and their thinking process, you do come across like a very strong leader. That
Thank
being
you.
said, we the perception is that you're leading from behind, which in my opinion, and which is a personal opinion, is the best kind of leadership. But that confidence that you were talking about, that failure, it's not in your vocabulary, inspires people to do the same. And I think people need that anchor to be looking at someone and emulate what they're doing. And that's, in my opinion, that's leadership. So we see you as a leader. The
Yeah, I
leader,
mean,
yeah,
and thank you for saying that. I think that all of us have people that, you know, we rely on, people that can give us that advice, or people that we kind of use in our minds when we're thinking about some decisions, like what would they do in that if they were in our position. And obviously, I have those people in my life as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't like to be in the front, as you said.
yeah.
And
I can feel that. And it's something that it's very much appreciated, because I think it tells more than just the skills of leadership. It tells also a certain amount of the person that you are, which leads from a place of confidence, like you actually mention it, rather than a place of control. And that's absolutely beautiful to watch. and it's beautiful to be inspired to do so. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, we talk too much about me at this point.
Actually, the entire interview, it's about you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why the interview, it's about you. I think there is this perception of people that had the courage to take action towards some really hard decisions. And there's a myth behind it that there is not a true human there. And I think for me, it was important, besides the real estate portion that most people are interested in interviewing in, is to understand the person behind it, because we are overloaded by information. We're not overloaded by the emotion behind information, which drives action. So I'm more interested in inspire people than motivated people, because inspiration lasts longer than motivation. And I think you have that capability more than most leaders in this industry. So I want people to get an insight of your real brain and your soul.
It's a good point, and let me maybe tell you a story about that. When we started the company, you know, when you're building a startup, you have to raise money constantly, like every year or 2 years, and every time there's a price tag attached to the company, which should reflect some progress. So at the beginning, you raise money at a $2 million valuation, then hopefully a year later at a 5 or 10 or 20, and then you grow like that. And I remember the early days, every time we would raise money, there was an ecosystem of startups around us that always were ahead of us. And we had connections with them because we had the same investors, or we knew the CEOs. And every time I looked at them as a benchmark, every time they raised money at a $100 million valuation or $600 million value, in my mind, it was, when I get to that point, my life is going to be so different. I'm going to worry so much less. Everything is going to be smooth. And I remember that every time I reached that milestone with the company, things did not become easier. You still wake up in the morning with a set of things that you have to solve for, with a set of worries, maybe even more, because the company became larger. There's a bigger team. There are more agents, and you feel responsible for those agents personally. So for what I'm trying to say here is that I don't feel different today compared to how I felt 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an agent, just know that we're sharing the same struggles. And it doesn't matter if Real is now valued at $1 billion and is making hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue quarterly. I still feel the same as that entrepreneur who's now building the companies and hiring the first employee. It's just maybe a different set of problems, but it's the same amount of weight on your shoulder. And people have to realize that it's not glamorous in any way. It's just the journey of entrepreneurship, which is pretty much similar at all phases.
And you just brought me to the next question, when you mentioned that you get to hire people, you get to have more responsibility to other people. And I want to ask you this question. You work with the brilliant team of people, and you surrounded yourself with amazing people. If I can call your team right now, the closest team, let's say the 3 people, key people around you, and I get to ask them, how's Tamir to work for and with, what would they say?
Wow, that's a big question. I actually didn't think about that for a while. I would say a few things. First of all, I think that the people that I'm working with know me and have joined the company because they understand, you know, my plus and minuses. They understand who they're working with. So obviously, they made a decision. I think that they would say that I'm giving them a lot of freedom and flexibility. I'm very supportive. I'm very big on making mistakes. Like, this is how you actually build businesses, by making a lot of mistakes and getting it right sometimes. So I want people to make mistakes. I'm a team player. I know how to make tough decisions. I believe that they will say that. I'm patient until that point where I lose my patience, and then it's game over. I don't know. You should probably ask them, but
I will.
if you ask me, I'm not sure it's very easy to work with me. Because on the one hand, it's very demanding. On the other hand, it's not like I'm providing a lot of guidance. I'm just, my philosophy is to build a team that has tons of talent and let them do their thing. If you have to guide someone or micromanage, you're probably not doing the right thing. So I think that sometimes I'm completely on that side of being hands off and letting people do their thing, and then obviously observing. And sometimes people want to have that guidance. And obviously there's a lot that I can improve on.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
What was the scariest part in the journey of building Real?
I think that probably when you ask people about scary, they would give you examples of near-death experience of the company. We had X money in the bank, we couldn't afford to pay rent or salaries next month, and we had those a couple of times. I would say that personally, the scariest moments for me, I would say two things, and they're probably related. I had to fire many people that I call friends, family, early on in the journey, and I was just terrified about it. I was terrified. So that was scary for me. Even though I said that I eliminated the word fear, it was extremely uncomfortable. And the second thing, up to today, terminating someone's employment feels to me like a very, very heavy decision. Because you have to think about themselves, their career path, their families, like the impact that your decision has on someone's life is just enormous. And it's somewhat of a scary moment when you have to convey the message to them. So I hate doing that.
Yeah. I didn't expect this answer, but it fills my heart with joy hearing that. I want to switch it a little bit. You're a father, right?
Yes, I have 5 kids.
5 kids. Fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, in the process of building this really extraordinary community, what is one thing that you change your mind on about teaching, advising, or guiding your children on that after building this successful business, you no longer believe in, or you change your perspective dramatically on?
Wow. Again, a big question. I think that in the past, I'm a competitive person, but I don't think that people feel that about me. I don't think that I'm leading with competitiveness. I don't think that any of my action implies competitiveness. But I think that in the past, I was competitive, and this is something that I probably conveyed to my kids as well. I think that the journey of the past 10 years taught me to be very patient, think very long term, and understand that you can still be competitive and kind if you're confident in your ability to win long term. So you don't have to demonstrate that you're winning all the time. You don't have to prove it to anyone. You don't have to prove it to yourself. You can be an extremely kind person and make learn how to lose in the short term while being very confident of your ability to win long term. And I think that this is something that I'm trying to teach my kids, that even if you're eager to win, it does not have, or it should not come at the expense of not being kind. And kindness is probably well ahead of winning. I think that this is something that changed, at least for me, compared to myself 10 years ago.
I like that, because I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
You are without a question a big visionary. And I know for a fact that many will compare the real business model with other revenue share models. However, I can attest that someone that experienced a different revenue share model for almost a year and a half, and without trying in any form of shape to discredit any other companies with similar models, I can attest that real is different. And I think you saw a different kind of vision, and you casted that vision, and you executed that vision beautifully. And I'm truly excited to be part of it and to see it continue growing and experience it for myself. So I would like to talk about that. Why is real? Because for some people, it's hard to understand. They're asking me why moving from one revenue share to company to another. Why is real different? And why is real's vision different?
First of all, the word visionary, I think, again, it's a big word. I don't think that I'm a visionary. I just think that I tend to think outside of the box, or think of the world as a place where everything is possible. And at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're creating our own reality. And if someone can do something, why can't I do it? And that's how I think about things. Obviously, people like to compare things to things they already know. This is why they compare, us to other companies with a revenue share model. This is why they compare other companies to companies that have been there, with something similar. Revenue share is a very effective way to attract talent to the company. Prior to 2020, we didn't have revenue share offering in place. We were actually spending a lot of money on advertising to agents who might be interested in joining the company. And we paid a lot of money to Google and Facebook and other platforms in order to pay for those ads. And then we realized that maybe we should try something different. Instead of paying Google and Facebook, why not pay those marketing dollars to our agents? So for us, it was a very effective marketing strategy that allowed us to keep more money in our agents' pockets. That's all it is. And I think that putting us in the same bucket with other companies that have revenue share offering is probably wrong. It's like putting companies that have commission split models in the same bucket, just saying they're similar, but they're not similar. I think that probably in a couple of years, when there's an even bigger tech differentiation between real and other companies, people will not put us in the same bucket. But as of now, because there is not a new bucket that has been built, and we're actually building it as of now, people are placing us with, those other companies. I think that the vision here is much broader than revenue share, or even creating a company that always finds ways to make agents' lives better, which this is why we started, and this is why we wake up in the morning. I think that if you truly care about agents, you have to care about agents' clients. And when we're thinking about product and innovation, I usually put myself in my kids' shoes, and I'm trying to think the way they think, and I'm trying to understand their reality and how they grew up and what kind of tools they have in their hands and how engaged they are with social media or technology in general. And I'm trying to think, what would the process look like in 10 or 20 years when they will come to buy or sell their first home? And how can we create something that will cater to them, to their needs, to their expectations? Because right now, they probably wouldn't agree to buy a home with the process that we as an industry offers them. So I think that the vision is not only changing agents' businesses and agents' lives. I think that the vision is about changing the home buying and selling process using technology while leaving the agents in the center of the transaction. Because let's face it, buying a home can be a much smoother, simpler, faster, more transparent experience. And somebody has to build it. And I think that the biggest threat to our industry is the fact that we as brokerages have failed for many, many years to build something different. And if we don't build it, somebody from the outside will come in and build it for us and will probably eliminate all of us. So I think that it's a huge risk. And this is what Real is about long term.
I really hope that exactly what you just said right now in the last 2 minutes, people will grasp of the importance of what you just said for us as an industry in the future of even existing, this industry to even exist in the future. So I really hope that people will pay attention to this portion, even if it doesn't sound too sexy, like too appealing or whatever, and they will see beyond that. And I have a grasp of what you're talking about, and it could become very scary for us as an industry if someone would not pay attention to exactly that.
Correct. And I think that it's difficult for people to try and imagine what it actually means or how a process can look like, because we've been buying and selling homes in the same way for many decades. And sometimes it's difficult for people who are used to doing things in a certain way to think outside of the box. But I think that, again, let's not try and think about what's possible. Let's think about what's desirable. Like, what would be the perfect experience of buying a home? Forget about the fact that you're an agent. Forget about the fact that you served hundreds and thousands of clients so far. Think about your kids. Like, what would be an amazing experience for them? How long it should take? How many interactions does it take? What does the process look like? How much control should they have in the process? How much certainty they need to have in the process? Those are the terms that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up. I didn't know what to expect from the question, but I'm super happy you brought that up. And again, I hope people will really read deeper into what you actually said. Now, this is such a popular conversation in the last little while about the lawsuit in the United States. And I wanted to ask you about, where do you think we're going with this, and how Real as a company would be affected by the lawsuit that already exists, the involvement of this lawsuit, and where do you think it's going?
Well, obviously, we were named in one of the lawsuits and we settled and we paid a lot of money, which, is very unfortunate, but that's a cost that, to run a business. I think that the intention probably came from a good place, protecting consumers or trying to do something for the benefit of consumer is a good cause. I think that the implementation was wrong. I think that there was lack of understanding of how the industry operates. And I think that the changes that are going to be implemented under the NAR settlement, I'm not sure that they are going to make a huge difference. The fact that there needs to be a assigned buyer, broker, or buyer representation agreement in place, and the fact that you cannot offer any buyer agent compensation on the MLS, I think that there are ways around that. If you look at the percentage of commission that's paid on a transaction over the past 25 years, you can see a very clear trend of a slow decline. And I think that trend will continue, and it would have continued regardless of the NAR lawsuits. And I think that consumers will always try and find ways to pay less. I think that we have not done a great job at articulating our value as agents, as brokerages. I think that a lot of consumers don't really understand what it takes. They just think that, you know, we open a door and we collect a commission check, but there's so much more that goes into closing a transaction, and you know it better than anyone else. I think that we just need to do a better job. We need to do a better job at highlighting our value and how much we're bringing to a transaction and how crucial agents are to closing a transaction. In terms of how it's going to affect the industry as a whole, I think that commissions are probably going to continue in decline, which will put a lot of pressure on agents, but more so on brokerages, because brokerages operate on very thin margins. And I think that brokerages that rely heavily on office space and manual labor will be under a lot of pressure, economic pressure in the future. I think that Real will very likely benefit from that, just because, you know, we are non-brick and mortar. We automate a lot of processes, so we are very lean on the team side. I also think that if there will be continued compression on commissions, then it means that agents will be making less money on every transaction. And as a result of that, agents will likely be looking for a brokerage that allows them to keep more money in their pockets. And I think that it might drive even more agents our way. So I'm not concerned about that. Obviously, I'm concerned about the industry as a whole, but more on our ability to actually demonstrate our value and make sure that people continue to believe in us as those champions of deals, as those people who make dreams come true for them. Because if people understand the value, they will be willing to pay for it. When there's compression on price, it's because people don't believe that the price they pay is worth the service that they're getting. And I think that instead of fighting the price, we should actually focus on the value.
Yeah. Agreed. It's something that we fight on a daily basis to educate the consumers on, and I think agents should be spending their time a lot there than bragging. I know I've seen a trend since I'm part of Real that there's always something new happening in cooking. It's always something. Is there any secret that you can let us on that's cooking right now?
Well, the only thing I can say is that, yes, there are things cooking, and we're also always thinking 5 and 10 years ahead in terms of innovation. I can tell you that, I mean, you're aware of the Real Wallet and our consumer-facing app that's in the works. I think that we're doubling down on AI. AI is just this tremendous opportunity, as well as tremendous risk, by the way. And I think that we can harness the power of AI and the fact that we built a platform where everything is so integrated, all of the data, all of the information, all of the interactions that agents have between themselves, their clients, their brokers, other agents, everything is on one platform. We can actually harness that immense amount of data to build something that will help agents close more deals with less effort or less time spent. So I'll just, I'll hint on that. But it'll be interesting to be at our Rise conference in October, because we're going to make some amazing announcement there.
I'm excited to hear that. You're going through a lot of interviews. I know that people are asking you tons of questions, and you could have not built what you built without having a little bit of an analytical side, besides the driven portion of your character. I'm sure you're thinking of the questions that you've been asked. And I have 2 questions in this question. What was one of the questions that provided the most value to an audience that you've been asked? And what is one of questions that you feel like you've never had the opportunity to be asked that would provide value?
You're asking amazing questions. And by the way, you did not send me the questions in advance, and even
No,
if
I
you
didn't.
offered, I wouldn't want to get them. I never want to receive the questions in advance because I want my answers to be genuine,
And this
and I
is the
don't.
reason I didn't.
Yeah.
And believe it or not,
Um,
2 or 3 that just came on my mind because you inspired me based on your questions. So I'd like to have it very, organic and just get the raw person. So what is one question that you've been asked over so many years? And I know
Years.
you've been asked a lot of questions that really, it was such a smart question that provided so much value.
Um, I think that when people listen to interviews, everyone's going through different things in their lives. You know, you could have 100 people looking at the same interview, and each one of them is taking something different because it touches something that is exactly going on in their life, and they needed some, I don't know, advice, some sympathy, empathy. So I think it's difficult to think about one question. I think that maybe one question that may bring value to people, especially entrepreneurs, especially agents, is one advice that I was given that helped me succeed or helped me personally in building the company. And that advice was an advice that I was given pretty much early on in the journey with Real that I didn't really understand at the beginning. But when the situation was right, I remember the advice and it played an immense role. And I'll give it to you in a second. I have a close friend who, I mean, we became friends. He was the first investor at Real, a very special human being who invests in early stage startups. He invested in multiple early stage startups. Many of them became multi-billion-dollar companies. So he has a good eye for companies that are or have the potential to succeed. And very early on, he told me the first time we needed to lay off people, he said, just keep the company alive. And it's a very simple advice. And it applies to agents as well. Just keep your business alive, which seems like, I mean, that's obvious. But there are crossroads in a business life where you can choose something different. You can say, okay, this is too difficult. I'm going to go to a full-time job somewhere, or I'm going to go out of the industry for a couple of years and come back when, things pick up. And he told me this, he gave me this advice in a couple of flavors in different ways. But in 2019, the company was very close to being shut down. Very close. We had, I think, $25,000 in the bank. We had a couple of weeks of operation. I needed, again, to lay off almost everybody. And he gave me that same advice. And he said, as long as you're in the game, you have a chance of winning, obviously. But he gave me the confidence that he was there before with so many different companies. Some of them are extremely successful. Some of them you may know. I wouldn't tell the names, but some of them are worldwide known companies that at some point in their journey was very close to shutting down. And the only reason why they're still alive is because the CEO decided that he's gonna hang in there for another day, and then another day, and then another day. So in your business, when you're going through that difficult time, and we all go through difficult times, just hang in there because the most successful companies were there before. And the only reason they're still there and successful is because the person who's leading decided that they're not shutting down, they're not giving up, they gave it the chance, and eventually something happened. So that's my advice.
That's amazing. It's so, I love it. It's, you just, with the different flavor, like to quote you, you just described what hope is and how important to believe and to have that belief is. So thank you for the gift.
And for the second part of the question, and I know we're running on time.
No, I want to be mindful of your time. If you can stay with me, stay with me. I would
Yeah, no,
this
I
question.
actually have to jump off in 3 minutes. But for the second part of the question, I think that people underestimate the amount of support you need from your family while you're busy building a business. you're not building it yourself. You're building it with a lot of people and team and everybody's involved, everybody who's involved, but you're building it with your family, and your family sacrifices a lot, and your kids sacrifice, and your significant other sacrifices. And I think that we're not highlighting them enough because they're an integral part of everything that's happening in your life, and they're an integral part of the fact that a business is being built.
I'm so grateful that you brought that up, because I do not believe that people will be able to achieve without having that safety net and that support. They wouldn't achieve anything. So and you're so right that they do not get the credit in the light of the show, but they're behind the scenes supporting the foundation of, and give us the, you know, the strength of doing everything that we're doing. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Well, I can't thank you enough for opening up to me and to everyone that will see this.